There is a specific age at which many women undergo a complete psychological recalibration that most men do not see coming and cannot reverse once it begins. That age is 40, not 39, not 42. Somewhere in that narrow window, a shift occurs that changes how she sees you, how she sees herself, and what she is willing to tolerate going forward. And by the time you notice the change, the decision has already been made. You are simply living in the aftermath of a conclusion she reached weeks or months ago without telling you. This is not about all women. This is about a pattern that repeats across income levels, across cultures, across personality types. The specifics vary, the timing shifts slightly, but the outcome is remarkably consistent. A woman who seemed content, who seemed stable, who seemed committed, becomes someone you do not recognize. And the man in her life is left trying to understand what he did wrong, when the truth is far more unsettling. He did not do anything wrong. The change was not caused by him. It was caused by something inside her that he had no access to and no ability to influence. Most men describe it the same way. They say she became cold. They say she stopped engaging. They say conversations that used to flow naturally now feel like interrogations or obligations. They say she looks at them differently, not with hatred, not even with disappointment, with indifference. And indifference in a relationship is worse than anger. Anger means she still cares enough to feel something. Indifference means she has already emotionally exited. She is still physically present, but psychologically, she has moved on. And once a woman reaches that state, there is no strategy, no conversation, no gesture that brings her back. The door has already closed. This happens to men who provided well, men who stayed faithful, men who were present for their children, men who believed they were doing everything right. They look back at the last 5 years, the last 10 years, and they cannot identify the moment it went wrong, because it did not go wrong in a moment. It went wrong in a process that was invisible to them because they were measuring the relationship using the wrong indicators. They were looking at actions. Was she still cooking dinner? Yes. Was she still attending family events? Yes. Was she still sleeping in the same bed? Yes. And so they assumed everything was fine, but everything was not fine, because actions are not emotions, and emotions are what determine whether a woman stays or leaves. By the time a woman changes at 40, the emotional shift has already been building for years. She's been quietly cataloging grievances. She's been quietly comparing her life to other possibilities. She has been quietly asking herself if this is all there is. And the answers she arrives at are shaped not by logic, not by fairness, but by how she feels. If she feels unseen, it does not matter how much you actually saw her. If she feels unappreciated, it does not matter how many times you told her you appreciated her. Feelings do not require evidence. They do not require consistency. They simply are. And when a woman's feelings turn, the entire foundation of the relationship turns with them. The biological component cannot be ignored. Around 40, a woman's body is sending her unmistakable signals that her reproductive window is closing or has already closed. Even if she does not want more children, even if she is done with that phase of life, the signal still registers. And it triggers something primal, a sudden awareness of time, a sudden urgency to evaluate whether the life she is living is the life she wants to finish. Men do not experience this the same way. Men at 40 often feel like they are just getting started. They have more resources, more confidence, more stability than they did at 30. But women at 40 are looking at a countdown clock, and that clock creates pressure. Pressure to decide. Pressure to act. Pressure to escape anything that feels like a trap. And here is what most men do not understand. Once a woman starts feeling trapped, everything you do reinforces that feeling. If you try to fix the problem, you are smothering her. If you give her space, you are neglecting her. If you ask what is wrong, you are putting emotional labor on her. If you do not ask, you are oblivious. There is no correct response because the problem is not something you did. The problem is how she has reframed the entire relationship in her mind. She has rewritten the story. And in the new version, you are not the partner. You are the obstacle. This rewriting happens gradually and then suddenly. For years, she may have genuinely believed she was happy. She may have defended you to her friends. She may have talked about the future with optimism. But at some point, the narrative flips. And once it flips, every memory gets reinterpreted. The vacation you took 5 years ago that she said was perfect? Now she remembers feeling lonely the entire time. The decision to buy the house? Now she feels like you pressured her. The years she stayed home with the kids? Now she feels like you stole her career from her. None of this is based on what actually happened. It is based on how she feels now. And feelings rewrite history more effectively than any facts ever could. I have seen men try to fight this with evidence. They pull out old texts, old photos, old emails where she said she was happy. And they present this evidence like it means something, like it proves she is wrong. But it does not prove anything, because she is not operating in the realm of proof. She is operating in the realm of emotion. And in that realm, her current feelings are the only truth that matters. You cannot logic someone out of a feeling. You cannot convince someone they were happy when they have decided they were not. The past is not fixed. It is flexible, and she has already reshaped it into something unrecognizable. The cultural reinforcement makes this worse. A woman at 40 is surrounded by messages that tell her she deserves more, that she should never settle, that leaving is brave, that staying is weak. Every magazine, every podcast, every social media post aimed at women in this demographic is telling her the same thing. You are allowed to choose yourself. You are allowed to walk away. You are allowed to start over. And while that might sound empowering in theory, in practice it creates a culture where women are encouraged to abandon commitments the moment they feel uncomfortable. Not abused, not betrayed, just uncomfortable. Just less than perfectly happy. And discomfort becomes justification enough. Her friends reinforce this. The moment she expresses doubt, the moment she says she is not sure if she is happy, her friends do not tell her to work on it. They do not tell her that all relationships go through phases. They tell her she deserves better. They tell her life is too short. They tell her to leave. And they frame this advice as support, as solidarity, as feminism, when in reality, it is just validation. Validation for a decision she has already half made. And once her social circle starts affirming that decision, it becomes inevitable. Because now leaving is not just an option, it is the right thing to do. It is what strong women do. And she wants to be strong. You will not see this coming because she will not tell you. She will not sit you down and say she is thinking about leaving. She will not give you a chance to address her concerns. She will keep it to herself until the decision is final. And then, one day, she will announce it. Calmly. Matter-of-factly. She will tell you she is not happy. She will tell you she needs space. She will tell you she's been feeling this way for a long time. And you will be blindsided. Because from your perspective, everything was fine last week. But from her perspective, nothing has been fine for months. Maybe years. She was just waiting for the right moment to say it out loud. The signs were always there. You just did not know what you were looking at. She stopped initiating conversations. She stopped asking about your day. She stopped laughing at your jokes. She stopped touching you casually. She stopped making plans that included you. But these changes were so gradual that you adapted to them without realizing what they meant. You assumed she was stressed. You assumed she was tired. You assumed it was temporary. And by the time you realized it was not temporary, it was already too late. She had already emotionally detached. And emotional detachment once complete, does not reverse. Men in this situation often blame themselves. They think if they had been getting more attentive, more romantic, more present, it would have made a difference. But that is not how this works. Because the change is not about what you did or did not do. The change is about her, about what she needs at this stage of her life. And what she needs is not you. It is not the life you built together. It is not the future you planned. What she needs is the feeling of possibility, the feeling that there is still time to become someone different, to live a different life. And you, simply by being who you are, represent the opposite of possibility. You represent commitment, stability, history, and those things which used to comfort her, now suffocate her. There is a moment in many of these situations where the man tries to fight for the relationship. He suggests counseling. He promises to change. He asks what he can do differently. And she agrees. She goes to therapy. She listens to his promises. She gives him a list of things that need to change. And he does them. He changes his schedule. He takes on more responsibilities at home. He plans date nights. He does everything she asked for. And for a few weeks, maybe a few months, it seems like it is working. But it is not working because she did not actually want him to change. She wanted permission to leave. And by trying and inevitably falling short of her unspoken expectations, he gives her that permission. Now she can say she tried. She can say he did not follow through. She can leave without guilt. The psychology here is specific. When a woman decides she is unhappy, her brain begins filtering information to support that decision. This is called confirmation bias. Every small annoyance becomes evidence. Every forgotten errand becomes neglect. Every neutral comment becomes criticism. Her perception warps to align with her conclusion. And once that process starts, it is almost impossible to stop, because stopping would require her to admit she was wrong. And admitting she was wrong means facing the possibility that she is about to destroy something valuable for no good reason. Most people cannot do that. So instead, they double down. They find more reasons. They build a stronger case. And eventually, the case becomes so convincing that they forget it was built backward. This is not conscious manipulation. She genuinely believes what she is telling you. She genuinely believes you did not listen. She genuinely believes you did not support her. She genuinely believes she sacrificed everything and received nothing, even if none of that is objectively true, even if you have proof to the contrary. It does not matter. Because memory is not a recording. Memory is a story. And she has edited the story to cast herself as the victim and you as the villain. And that story is the only version she can access now. The financial incentives matter too. In most divorces, the woman receives the house, the kids, and a significant portion of the man's income. She knows this. Even if she does not admit it out loud, she knows that leaving is not a financial risk the way it would have been 30 years ago. The system is designed to protect her, to ensure she does not suffer economically for ending the marriage. And the safety net removes one of the major barriers that used to keep women in relationships. Fear of poverty, fear of instability, those fears no longer apply. So the calculation shifts. Staying is no longer the safe choice. Leaving is. Men often say they feel used. They say they worked for 20 years to build a life, to build security. And the moment it was built, she left. And from their perspective, that is exactly what happened. But from her perspective, she stayed as long as she could. She stayed through the hard years. She stayed while the kids were young. She stayed while the money was tight. And now that things are finally stable, now that there is finally breathing room, she realizes she does not want this anymore. She does not want the man who represents all those hard years. She wants a reset, and the law allows her to have it without losing anything. This is not about demonizing women. This is about recognizing a pattern. A pattern driven by biology, by psychology, by culture, by incentives. And the men who do not recognize this pattern are the men who suffer the most, because they think they are building something permanent. They think commitment matters. They think loyalty is reciprocal. But for many women, especially around 40, commitment is conditional. It lasts as long as it feels good. And the moment it stops feeling good, it ends. No matter what was promised, no matter what was built, you cannot prepare for this. You cannot prevent it, because the shift happens inside her, in a place you do not have access to. All you can do is recognize the signs once they appear. The emotional distance, the rewriting of history, the sudden focus on self-discovery, the friends who encourage her to leave, the therapy that focuses on her needs and ignores the relationship. These are not problems to solve. These are indicators that the decision has already been made. And once the decision is made, everything that happens afterward is just process, just formality. The relationship is already over. You are just waiting for her to say it out loud. Most men, when they look back, realize the signs were there for years. They realize she stopped being fully present long before she said anything. They realize she was testing the idea of leaving, imagining what it would feel like, preparing herself emotionally. And they realize that all the conversations, all the promises, all the efforts to save the relationship were happening after it was already unsavable. Because you cannot save something the other person has already abandoned. You can only delay the inevitable, and delaying the inevitable does not change the outcome. It just makes the pain last longer. There is no happy ending to this pattern. There is no moment where she realizes she was wrong and comes back. There is no reconciliation where everything returns to how it was. Once the shift happens, it is permanent. She becomes someone else. Someone who does not need you. Someone who does not want the life you offered. And the man is left trying to make sense of it, trying to understand how someone he knew for 10 or 15 or 20 years could change so completely. But she did not change. She revealed. She revealed who she actually was beneath the roles she was playing. And that person was never as committed as he thought. The men who survive this are the men who accept it quickly, who do not fight, who do not beg, who do not try to win her back, because winning her back is not possible. The woman you fell in love with is gone, and the woman standing in front of you now does not love you. She might not even hate you. She might just be indifferent, and indifference means it is over, completely, finally. There's no coming back from indifference. You are not prepared for this because no one tells men this is possible. No one warns you that the woman who promised forever might mean it, conditionally. That the stability you built might make her feel trapped instead of secure. That doing everything right might still result in her leaving. Because our culture does not prepare men for female nature. It tells men that women value loyalty, commitment, stability, and women do value those things. Until they do not. Until something shifts inside them and those values become obstacles. And when that shift happens, no amount of history, no amount of sacrifice, no amount of love makes any difference. This is the reality. Not the comfortable version you were told. Not the version where effort and commitment guarantee success. The real version. The version where women change. Where biology and psychology and culture converge to create a moment of total recalibration. And the men in their lives are simply collateral damage. Not because the women are evil, not because they planned it, but because at 40, for many women, the past stops mattering, and the future becomes the only thing they can see. And if you are not part of that future, you will be removed, quickly, quietly, completely. And by the time you understand what happened, she will already be gone.